Hello, my name's Jennifer Maruno. I am proud to be part of the OPL Public Library Community Connection. My latest book, Until Niagara Falls, was released in February, and for you who are stuck at home, I thought I would begin by reading you the first chapter. We live in Niagara Falls. People who visit it call it the honeymoon capital of the world. People born here just call it the Falls. Gran says with all the traffic, noise, and crowds, life here is certainly no honeymoon. Before school was out for the summer, everyone in my class had a project to do on something or someone that made the Falls famous. Our teacher told us about Annie Taylor, who went over the Falls in a barrel with her cat. She wasn't sure if the part about her cat being black at the beginning of the ride and white at the end of the ride was true, which made us all laugh. Most of the boys signed up for other daredevils that plunged over the brink of some crazy kind of contraption or the collapse of the honeymoon bridge. I chose Jean-Francois Gravelet, the Great Blondin. He was a funambulist. That's a fancy name for a tightrope walker. The Great Blondin started with P.T. Barnum in his Greatest Show on Earth, but he was most famous for walking across Niagara Falls on a tightrope. During work period, I stared at the giant June calendar on the chalkboard, trying to think of a way to get extra marks. I'd given up the idea of walking a tightrope as demonstration. I wasn't brave enough to try to balance on a thick rope, even if it was only a foot off the ground. Miss Hurd, the other grade 5 teacher from across the hall, came to whisper something to my teacher. Miss Hurd actually looked pretty when she covered her mouth with her teeth. She had the worst set of crooked teeth in the world. I was relieved not to be in her class. I would never be able to stop staring at those teeth long enough to concentrate on my work. "Brenda," my teacher called out, "we need your help." I got out of my seat and went into the hallway. She probably wanted me to take a message to the principal's office. I was the only kid in the world who could find their way to the principal's office and back without getting into trouble. "Someone in Miss Hurd's class isn't feeling well," Miss Wilson explained. "She's not sure of the way home." A skinny girl in a faded dress leaned against the wall. "Rosedale Crescent is off your street, isn't it?" Miss Hurd said. I nodded. "You have your grandmother's permission to walk her home," she said, putting the girl's thin, clammy hand into mine. "Then you are dismissed." I opened my mouth in disbelief. It was only 2 o'clock. We hadn't even had afternoon recess. Most kids would have liked the idea of leaving early, but I didn't. I would have to spend extra time with Gran. She would make me help with some kind of housework, reminding me over and over again that someday I would have a house of my own. She didn't know I planned to hire a servant. "Just a minute," I said, and ran back to my desk. I grabbed my project notes and pencil case along with every book from my desk and stuffed them into my school bag. I had to make it look like I had a ton of homework. "Her name is Maureen Sullivan," Miss Hurd said, taking us to the front of the school. Students didn't usually use that door. It felt strange walking beside the school flower beds. As I tightrope walked the curb, I couldn't help but notice the frayed laces of Maureen's worn shoes. One of their socks had lost its elastic, and it puddled about her ankles, looking, I guess, the same way she felt. I gotta turn the page. I walked her to the corner and stopped and waited. This is only out of habit. I'd never seen a car drive up Homewood Avenue. The cracks in the dandelions and the sidewalks were bad. Everyone who walked to school this way said these ants bit, and then they flattened a few mounds before moving on. I wondered why the ants kept building their homes in the same spot. "Let's take a shortcut through the park," I said. "Good to know a shortcut," she said. "We just moved here." Maureen didn't speak. She just shook her head slowly from side to side. "This park's great." Dad was right. The park in our neighborhood had everything a kid could want. There was a wading pool and a huge sandbox. The adult pool had a deep end with a diving board. Behind that was a tree-topped hill with grown-up swings and slides and teeter-totters. The hill was perfect for tobogganing. Because of the baseball diamond and the soccer field, it was a busy place in the summer. The Kiwanis Club ran a sports program. Once you turned 10, you could join, and that was the trouble with having been skipped a grade. Everyone in my class belonged but me. "This is the municipal park," I informed her, using my best presentation voice. As soon as I was old enough to work, I planned to be a tour guide. The swimming pool has a deep end with a single diving board. Is all she said. We cut across the baseball field. As we walked beside the pool's chain link fence, I looked through the wire diamonds. A couple of buckets of paint and some rollers sat in the empty shallow end. Soon the bottom would once again be bright blue and the sides sparkling white. "They're painting," I said, dropping my school bag and clutching the wire for a good look. "You know what that means?" Maureen shook her head and leaned against the fence post. "It means when it's dry, we can go swimming." A man in a paint-splattered overall came over to the door to the boys' change room. "Hey, you two," he yelled. "Shouldn't you be in school?" "Hi, Jesper," I called back. "I have to take this girl home. She's not feeling well." "Well, then get going," he said. "Quit hanging around in the hot sun." I turned to Maureen, who sat on the cement with her back to the fence, eating something off her finger. I figured she must have found part of a cookie in her pocket. And then I watched in horror as she scraped her fingernail along a patch of dried bubblegum and put it in her mouth. "You can't do that," I said with a grimace. "Do what?" "Eat stuff off the sidewalk. It's just gum." I didn't offer my hand to help her up. We walked under the trees and across the grass until we reached Jepson Street. Cars zipped up and down the street all the time. It really got busy in the summer because Jepson Street ended at Victoria Avenue, the street that took you to the falls. Here we had to wait, but I didn't mind. "Where do you live?" I asked before we turned onto the crescent, but I knew as soon as the words came out of my mouth. The lawn of the little green wooden house was full of furniture and cardboard boxes. A motorbike leaned against the front porch. Children swam about the place like tadpoles. A red-cheeked baby slept beneath a blanket spread across 2 kitchen chairs. A skinny woman in a halter top and tight pedal pushers was sorting through the boxes. She looked up. Her blonde curls had been dragged back into a ponytail. Frizzy pieces escaped all over, giving her a kind of golden halo. She had pale, freckled skin and bright green eyes. "What's wrong?" she asked. Then she put her hand to Maureen's forehead and sighed. "I guess it's your turn," she murmured, leaving her by the hand up the porch steps. "Thank you for walking my daughter home," she said as soon as she opened the screen door. Maureen's mom wasn't like the other moms I knew from school. She had kind of a teenager look, one that Gran wouldn't like. I looked at the baby sleeping on the lawn. She didn't tell me to mind the baby, but I couldn't just walk away and leave it. What if a giant dog snatched it up and ran off? "Goodbye, Mrs. Sullivan," I said when she finally came back outside. "Oh, goodbye," she said to the inside of a cardboard box. Then she pulled out her head. "I hope you've had the chicken pox." And that's the end of chapter 1 of Until Niagara Falls. And who knows, after you read this book, maybe you'll look at some other ones of mine. Bye.